Hello and welcome to Easy Like a Sunday Morn. I'm your host, TheShaneLockwood, and today's show is part 2 of the Raggy Ragsdale interview that I did last week. This is episode 28, and today is the 5th of October 2014. Today's interview is a little bit longer than normal because I tried to find like a cut-off point, and I would rather go with not just a timestamp, but rather a pause in the conversation. Where I start talking with this interview, I'm talking about a video series called Ancient Alien Holes on Gazza J. Spenny's channel. It's a hilarious collaboration series. You do want to go over and check it out. I'm talking about me working on the video that I'm going to be contributing to that series. So we'll bring you up to speed as to what we're talking about. Anyway, enough of me chatting. If you like the podcast, if you like this series, don't forget to click like at the end of it, etc., etc. Add me to all your social networking, podcasts, apps, and all that sort of stuff. Look for Easy Like a Sunday Morning. Add them to all your podcast apps and social media things. Share this around if you love it. Anyway, on with today's show. Also, there's a little bit of swearing, so please be aware of that, and I apologise for the sound quality in advance. On with the show.
Oh, yeah.
I've just got to do a voiceover for some of the footage. It's amazing, because I went out and because Gazza had said, just film like a bus stop or film this and that. So I started filming that sort of stuff, and then I thought, I could probably do better. Anyway, I went behind some local shops, and they had a whole heap of garbage and stuff that people had thrown out, and broken TVs and computer monitors and things like that. And I'm thinking, this is gold. I can use this footage. And wait till you see what I do with it. You'll laugh your head off, I think.
But I hope you do better than me. I went out. My wife and I went to Kroger, and she got me an alien mask. And I spent 6 hours working on that mask, and then another, I think, 5 hours working on it in a little program that kind of make it look like it's talking.
Yeah.
And I mean, I have invested over 20 hours in 5 seconds just for the test.
Yeah.
And it takes that long to do the process. And I keep thinking, who has that kind of time that they can make these week after week? I mean, they must spend days doing nothing else but playing with the editing programs. And I don't even know how to use my editing programs. I've tried. Once I managed to pull off the thing where I was giving a shout out to the mayor.
Yeah.
And I shot one, but it's obvious it was a double shoot because I never could get the rooms to match up as far as the shades go. So you can see it was 2 different shots just sort of taped together. And I was talking to myself, and I thought, that's really cool. But I then spent, another 2 days trying to get the colors and the shading to match. It never happened. And so I can't imagine, how these folks do it. My hat's off to them.
Yeah.
I'm going to try. I really am. I'm going to try, but my editing software is probably older than yours.
Yeah.
It's $20 when I got it. So it doesn't do a lot.
Mine was free. I got it free with my first little flip-out little camera thing. And the camera was really, really cheap. I think it was like $100 or something like that. No, $150 back then. And it ran on batteries.
Right.
It was just really, really low resolution. But I just needed something so that I could vlog. Just something to actually get me on YouTube to be part of the community in the beginning. And I didn't have fast enough internet at home. So I was taking the footage that I had, editing it, saving it to a thumb drive, and going to a local community house. I'm not sure what they call them in America. Community houses like, not an outreach so much, but everybody goes there, and you get like food parcels, you could get financial help, you can get this, that, and the other. But what they do is they will rent out rooms, and then you can have like meditation classes or martial art classes or church classes or whatever's going on. It's for the community. It's run by the government, and it's a community house. So they had internet access, and I was uploading my videos through there, but they had a limited amount of downloads that they could do every month. So I was using a little bit too much internet, so I decided, as soon as I could really, to get myself set up at home properly. But I still need to upgrade this computer, and I still need to get like some decent editing software.
My focus in the beginning was music.
Yeah.
And in a local office supply store, they had some videos. Not videos. They had I'm old. They had these software for these programs. They had a $29 movie editing program. Yeah. Which I bought and put in my machine, and then it had a thing in there where you could go and work on the audio. Yeah. And I clicked on that audio thing that was in this $29 program, and I was stunned. That program cost us over $20,000 when I was a sound engineer about 15 or so years ago. Yeah. And I called them. I got in touch with the man who actually ran the place before they sold it into Germany. Yeah. And I said, look, I just got to ask you, we had this identical program. He said, yeah. He said it was state of the art for a while. He said, now we just give it away with all our movie programs. He said, we got a new one. And I thought, what's it cost? I said, we got off easy at $20,000. He said, oh yeah, this new stuff is unbelievable. But I thought, look at this audio program. You could do anything with it. Well, not like they can now, but I was blown away. I have one video up where I sang a song I didn't even know it. Yeah. And it was first time I'd ever used that program. I just plugged the microphone straight into my computer. Air conditioners running, everything was running. People were coming in and out, and I just played an open D chord and sang "Going Home." Yeah. It's not even a video. It's just an audio. I've left it up there. I had never heard a sound like that outside of the studio. If you'd have told me it was possible, I would have just laughed in your face. And when I played it back, I was hooked. So I went the way of music. Yeah. I don't understand movies, the video editing and stuff. But it's fun to watch. I'm old, and I'm fascinated by it, but I just cannot retain any information. I just can't. I hate that.
What I'd like to do with this, because I was talking to like a few people about like audio quality, and a few people have said, "Oh, there's nothing wrong with the audio quality," but there's others that if I was to do, and I noticed this with the podcast, if I did a live show, that meant that I was broadcasting live, and I just had to basically talk for half an hour. Yeah. If I was recording through my iPhone, then the quality would be a lot clearer. And I couldn't figure out why. Now, with this particular show, I'm recording this sitting in my kitchen at my computer. But the computer is making a background hum, and most people won't pick it up. But some people can.
I can hear it. It's not, well, it's your fan.
Yes, the fan. Because when I bought this computer, because you can take the sides off the case.
Right.
This was missing the side of the case. So the case is wide open. That's why you can hear the background hum of the computer.
Man. Listen, I'll tell you the truth. There's nothing wrong with your sound. I can hear the fan. Nobody else can hear it. I can guarantee you that. Where I made my mistake was I got this condenser microphone. Yeah. A very high-end kind of microphone. Yeah. It picks up too much.
That's the same thing with... I spent like $128 on another webcam because I wanted a higher quality footage. But
yes,
but it's got 2 microphones,
right,
and of course it's picking up the sound from the computer twice as loud, to the point where when I was playing it back to edit it, I just went, no, I can't listen to this. And
well, yeah, I've got one of those. A stereo mic's built right into this high, webcam, which is tremendous sound. However, I just went ahead and plugged this microphone in it, and then it said, hey, there's 2 mics, which one you want to use? And I said, turn that goddamn webcam off, because that stereo is picking up the reflections off of this short room. And that drove me crazy, because it would bounce on the wall, and it's not balanced in here. It's balanced, in the sound studio, but it's not balanced here in the art studio. And it's just too much trouble to go into that monstrous machine in there. We just run a snake to it when we need it. But everything else I do on just a $200 laptop. That's what all this is. It's a $200 laptop, and it's 6-7 years old. I mean, good gracious. So, yeah.
And the other thing is, because I would like this podcast to be successful, but I think what the mistake that I was making was I was focusing too much on the business side of things, money, getting it up and running and all that sort of stuff, rather than focusing on just making a decent show that people actually wanted to listen to and tune in. Because apparently you're not really going to make any money through podcasting unless you've got like an audience of like 20,000 people. And
funny you should mention it. My wife said to me tonight, "You doing what? Talking to Shane? You've been on that program before." I said, "Well, yeah. And it was a good program. A lot of people liked it." She said, "Well, why don't you do a podcast and make some money?" And I said, well, number one, I don't have the gift for it. That's not something I could do. It's not something I want to do. But I tell you what, if I was somebody like you, I ain't kidding you. You may not understand this. I got my battles button right here on top of my guitar. It's been on ever since I got it. Those puppets you got, if you ever learn to domesticate those, you talk about Johnny Carson and Ed McMahon. If you ever really domesticate those things, they would make great sidekicks for when you go video. If you can go video at some point, or just show the picture of them so they'll know who it is you're talking to. That will add a new dimension, because you can say what you're feeling, and then you can put that negative or that other idea response in the voice of that puppet, and the people think, okay, here we have a man who's got these side people who are questioning him, giving him ideas, challenging him, learning from him. It would just be such a natural. See, that's where I would get in trouble. I would try to be too creative. I would try to overdo, because I would just want to amuse myself. That's my biggest problem. I don't take anybody too seriously, especially myself. If it ain't fun, don't do it. If 2 people are doing the same thing, you don't need one. That was my first piece of marital advice. If the 2 of you agree on everything, one of you ain't necessary. They didn't like it, but it's true.
Yeah, that's true. I think you learn from people who have different opinions. I've had to, very rarely will I remove someone from Facebook. They've used, like, if someone's racist, homophobic, sexist, or whatever, then it's pretty much bye-bye, I don't need you in my life. But if someone has a different political view, and I try to be apolitical, really, I'm more interested in what policies and things like that. Do they affect me? Or, for the most part, and I think if the government is doing its job, most policies should not affect you adversely. They should not affect the individual too adversely. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't, but it shouldn't be too drastic, you know? So if they have to increase taxes, it should be like minimal. If they have to introduce a levy or a fee or something, it should be like minimal. So the impact is minimal, etc., etc. You know, they don't need to be in like a budget surplus straight away. You know, they can take their time and do it over a period of years and things like that. That's the way they work.
No, you're doing it right. I mean, there are too many hosts television, radio, YouTube, whatever, that see themselves as the central point, the focal point. They're the stars. They want to be amusing. They want to be able to do those things to the guest or whatever. You're the consummate host in that you start it, you let it go, and it's not a lot of challenging. There's not a lot of ribald humor. That's not your style.
No.
You've got that charismatic voice that when people hear it, suddenly they begin to think, you can trust that voice. You can trust that person because there's a comfort there. Yeah. And if you bring comfort, people will listen because they know you're not going to suddenly start expounding ugly beliefs, or you're not going to start using vile language. That's the scariest thing. I use it all the time. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I'm like, I've got, it's like mild. That word when I start discussing, I have to watch myself like mild Tourette's. I will just suddenly just burst forth, cuss like a sailor. But I try to watch that as hard as I can when I'm on YouTube because there's just so much of that.
Can I let you in on a little secret? You're not alone there in that wanting to cuss like a sailor and stuff like that. Yeah, I do. And I think in Australia, there are certain words that have different connotations than they do in America.
Oh, God.
Like, for example, like, and this will probably get me into trouble, but the C word, for example, is used is used not towards females, strangely enough. Here it's used towards men, and it's normally it's uncommon, but it's not rare, shall we say. Whereas I think in America it sort of alludes to a woman being rather promiscuous.
Genitalia, it's absolutely.
But not just that, but being the derogatory thing of being a woman being promiscuous, if you were to use it as an insult. Rather than, and here it's just, you could almost be friendly in the way it's used here sometimes because it's softer. It's not a harsh sound. It's very soft. But that's the sort of thing. Like, you do have to be careful. And one guy was on my Facebook going off at a few people because of the scandal with Jennifer Lawrence and a few other celebrities getting all their pictures stolen and stuff like that. And a few people, the usual sort of response is, oh, well, if you don't want it on the internet, then you shouldn't have taken the photos in the first place. Anyway, this guy's response was that, oh, you guys were victim blaming and rah, 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 and started, called them F-wits and all sorts of stuff, right? So you're thinking, okay, where's this going to go? So he dropped the C-bomb, right?
Yeah.
And, no, hang on. He called someone an F-wit. So this woman over that I know in Pennsylvania, she goes, oh, I agree with your argument, but you'd win a lot more people over if you didn't cuss.
Oh,
and so he pulls out the C-bomb and goes, oh, well, this is what you C's deserve, rah, rah, rah. And in my culture, you could almost let that slide, right? Because if someone, you can use it if someone's being untoward or rah rah. It's still offensive, but it's not as harsh. But because she's American,
people misunderstand.
Yeah, but because
when I was preaching once, I preached. A woman said to me, "Look, my husband uses profanity all the time," and I said, "Well, what does he say?" It took her a while, but she told me, and said, he's not being profane, he's being vulgar, because that's language you don't use in general public, you can use it at home, and he's being graphic, he's being, but he's not profane. Profane means to take something that's holy to somebody in any belief system or religion, and to profane it. And profanity is not cussing, because cursing. Profanity is a whole different animal than just, laying back and using a euphemistic expression. I was preaching in 3 Native American churches I was appointed to 3 of them at one time. And one of the churches, well, actually I did it at all 3, but only one told me at the end of the day, and I would never been so embarrassed in my life. I was going with the thing where the thing is, and in our case, in our belief system, Jesus, well, they call him Jesus. He never answered that. But he said, when you pray Abba, Father.
Yeah.
Abba, which is what it means, Abba, 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 and Dad. So I said to him, it's very much like when your kids say to you, they want a glass of Wawa. And everybody grinned, and I said, and when they say they want a glass of Wawa, it's because they can't say water. Well, it's too late. They're already on the floor rolling and screaming. And so when the service is over, I thought, I really connected today. And the fellow came up and said, do you not understand in our language, Wawa means, now start the word with S and just go on through. It rhymes with hit.
Oh,
and
okay.
I stood in the pulpit and I said to those Native Americans of that particular tribe, of which I am not, but I said, I used that word a lot of times in that sermon. I couldn't believe it. That if I'd have been using our word, it would have been killed. I mean, we'd have been thrown out in a minute. But they just laughed because I was ignorant. I was stupid. I didn't know what it meant there. So I know what you mean when you use a word. Oh, no, when I first got to Mississippi, I preached a sermon, and I was talking about an Old Testament character, and I said, he was a real prick.
Ooh.
And I mean, I thought, what happened? And afterwards, my wife, who I wasn't married to at the time, explained to me what I said, and I said, no, I come from another state where somebody like pokes you with a needle and causes discomfort and pain and just keep chasing you. They say little pop, 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 little bloody streaks. And we call those people pricks because they were pricking you, everywhere you went, just prick you about this, prick you about it. And I thought, oh. So I didn't use that example ever again.
well, in Australia, that word has both meanings.
Oh, God. Yeah, I know what you mean.
So you can prick somebody.
Trouble all the time.
You can prick somebody with a pin.
Yeah.
Or if someone's being a prick, it means.
Yeah.
It's slang for penis here.
Yeah, sure. That's what I mean. Euphemistic. It's a euphemistic expression. I mean, the word itself has no meaning or power except what we give it. Yeah. And my dad was a minister, and he would kill himself or he would be profane. But he sat around, he'd use that S word all the time because he grew up on a farm in Tennessee and in Alabama. Yeah. And that's what they call the stuff they shoveled out of the pens every day. Yeah. And so he didn't mind using it at all. But I heard it and I thought, Dad, what are you doing? I said, crap, and you got angry at me. And he said, that's nasty. That's a euphemism for it. And I thought, for what? And he went through all the other words. And I thought, you didn't put yours in it. He said, well, we all talked like that when I was growing up. I thought, double standard.
Yeah. And words have different meanings, especially with the internet now. I think that you may hear the expression the Internet of Things, and that's to do with the fact that they've got these 3D printers now. They can print out any object you can pretty much imagine. If you can design it in 3D, they can print it out. Might take a few hours, but they're printing stuff in plastic. And the latest thing that they were doing was they're printing out prosthetic limbs for kids and stuff. But what they were doing, they designed them so that they look like some of the cartoon characters. So a kid has to have like an arm brace, but why not make the arm brace look like a Spider-Man glove or Wolverine or one of the other characters? So they've got to wear this thing, but they're cool because it's like they can pretend to be their favorite cartoon character at the same time. That's the Internet of Things. But to me, the Internet is more to do with labels now. It's like because a lot more people are opening up about a lot of stuff that normally you wouldn't know about, and a lot of it's like the adult stuff. So there would have been a time where, say, gay people, for example, wouldn't have discussed anything, right? Because I don't know about where you are, but in, I think, 1975, if I recall correctly, that's when they decriminalised homosexuality, for example. And that's in my lifetime, right? And
yeah.
So and the reason it was decriminalised was because there were people that were going around killing gay people just because they were gay. And they used the Bible to justify what they were doing and all sorts of weird and wonderful things, right? So you took the bravery of a few politicians to stand up and say, look, this isn't right. And there's a long history there. But what's happening is, as we understand more, we become less judgmental, but there's an infinite number of labels. So it's not just white, hetero male. There's other things like, if you are, say, if you're born male and your gender identity is male, right? Because there are people that are born male, their gender identity is female. Or
that's what changed my mind. I had a doctor, actually, one of my brothers, AMD. Once he took me down to the morgue and showed me some slides and gave me a test. And then when I realized what was happening, I had never looked at it the same way since, because I had a friend just 2 days ago, we were talking about this, and he's very, very homophobic.
Yeah.
And I said, I want to tell you the truth. It is possible that inside of that male body, you have a mind that should have been in a female body, and it's a chemical thing. It has nothing to do with your choice, your proclivities, what I want to do. And I said it as if you got hit by a car and they took your brain out and put it in the only available body, which was female, and you woke up that way, you would be turned on by ladies, and you would approach them. Only you'd have a different name, wouldn't you? And if a man tried to pick you up, you would be disgusted. And if he kissed you, you would probably throw up, because for you that would be abnormal.
Yeah.
And I said, and he said, I've never thought of that. I said, oh, yes, you better think of it, because a lot of these ladies are walking around and we think, wow, good looking. And the truth is, inside of their mind, might as well call him David. Might as well call him Chuck, because the truth is, all the hormones, all the balances, that XY thing didn't happen right. Because women, of course, are normal. They're perfect. We have brain damage. One of our chromosomes, gets popped, and it turns from, into an X and a Y. If that doesn't happen, and they end up in what should have been an X and a Y, or the other way around, then for them, normal is to pursue exactly what the creation was intended to pursue. Now, for those who make the choice to just get flamboyant, I enjoy them too. They're fun to talk to and watch. I mean, they're nice folks, all of them. They're just real people. We're all real people.
Yeah. But I think that there's also, just picking up on what you're saying, that there are people that say they were born female, but they gender identify as male. But then, their preference, their sexual preference, can be a completely different thing as well. That's like a massive spectrum as well. But my point was that what happens is we're beginning to there's labels upon labels upon labels. Like there are subdivisions within subdivisions within subdivisions just within the internet, and I don't know. And I don't know whether it's a particularly good thing or not. Because I was talking to one of my gay friends, and he was saying that he goes, you hetero people have it somewhat easy, right? Within the gay community, there are splits within splits within splits within splits. They've got, subcategories for like this, that, and the other. For example, a bear, for example, is like a big hairy guy. But then you might have I can't remember all the terms, but people that are older or this and that, there'd be like a subclass of people because they've got a moustache or something like this.
Okay, let me see if I can clarify it and use the language of the old days, and that is this. When you meet somebody and you say, wow, she's got a great fill in the blank.
Yeah.
And they would say, but I'm a butt man.
Yeah.
You see, that's a subdivision.
Yeah.
And that's what happens to the communities. People who have their preferences, want to spend time with people who share that preference, and to spend time with someone who has a different preference, it's okay, but it's not really, the direction they want to focus on.
Yeah.
And so they share with people who have like stories and like adventures, and they create a group that says, for everybody that likes brown horses, let's get a brown horse group. And then for you folks that like the speckled ponies, there's a speckled pony group. Now, we can get together and talk bovine all you want. But the truth is, at the end of the day, when we go out and get a few drinks and whatever, we're going to subdivide into our ponies and our horses.
Yeah.
Because that's what we want. We're accepted there.
Yeah.
Because you ain't never going to want a horse, you speckled pony. And that's when the fight starts.
Yeah.
Which is always good if it happens at the last set. Or
but
you can get close to some people that you used to be afraid of when the Glock goes off.
Yeah. One time, I got called a woman hater on a Twitter. I know you're not really familiar with Twitter, but it's like Facebook, like just the status updates, and there's nothing else, right? Everything you can upload pictures and things, but everything else is sort of linked. You have to click on a link to see any sort of thing. But someone had posted an image. It was an advertising company, and I can't remember what it was they were advertising. Anyway, they had two women, and one was like this woman with excessive amounts of makeup, disheveled hair, wearing stockings, short skirt, etc. Right, and that with the tagline that this woman is considered sexy. The other image was like a girl wearing glasses, her hair in a bun, wearing a Star Trek uniform, right? And both women were attractive, right? And I'd said, I wouldn't, if either of these girls found me attractive, I wouldn't say no, right? Because I was trying to disrupt the meme, right? I was trying to disrupt the thing. Because what the initial idea was, they were trying to compare the two ladies and say one is sexy and one is not. Like, basically they're trying to imply that the nerdy girl is not sexy. And I was basically saying basically neither are true. There's no comparison. Women are sexy regardless of like what they wear, what they do. And then for the next,
did you see Pimp Monk's video today?
No, I haven't yet.
Okay. He said, I've been called a sexist. And he said, the reason was because I say to women, you're beautiful. And then he went through, how Bill Buck is, and said, I'm not a sexist. I wrote him back and said, well, yeah, actually you are. If you say that, a woman is beautiful, and you don't say that the men around you are beautiful, that's sexist because you're singling out what's sex. So he writes me back. He says, you're beautiful. You smoothie, you. I thought it was just your bald head.
Oh God!
Yeah, I'm sorry I interrupted you.
No. But and then for the next 20 minutes, we've got a man hater, and like they were saying, you've just agreed with what the meme was saying, and I was like, and in my head I'm thinking, no, I didn't, but I couldn't reply to anything on Twitter because for the next 20 minutes. I had to endure a barrage of hate. This all the cliche stuff, and then lesbians sort of jumped in and said, "Oh, you're going to discriminate against me because I'm a lesbian," and all these sort of catchphrases that they have to hear all the time. I get inundated with it all, and I'm just thinking, there's no point even justifying or trying to explain where I was actually coming from. They just completely missed the point, and that's the problem.
In the clubs, one of my favorite things was if some lady says, you're looking at me, don't look at me like that. Truth is, I didn't focus. The lights were in our eyes; we couldn't even see them. But if they continued, and I realized, oh wow, this is where her party is, I would say to her, listen, you should have some sympathy toward me. I want some understanding. I want some love because I'm a lesbian trapped in a man's body. And of course I find you extremely attractive. And then, she had to deal with that because she thought, oh my God, I wouldn't have said that truly to a lesbian. Yeah. And I keep saying, I wouldn't have said that to a human being. both of those women you described are interesting in their own way. And I would find that delightful if they looked at me and liked me.
Yeah.
Yes, I would be interested. You know why? Because both of them you described look better than I ever did.
And that's the point.
If anyone looked at me and liked me, I would just be head over heels in love. I would just be thinking, oh, thank you. Finally, somebody is looking at me. And I would say the only thing that our culture has taught us, no matter what country we live in, is to use the language of familiarity in the area.
Yeah.
And so we would say, you know, you're sexy. Well, the truth is we don't know if they are or not. And we don't know if we are or not, but that's the word we use because it's such a general ocean, you know, to bring the tide in around the rocks that we've become and set in our ways, that we use the language loosely and people interpret it as an attack if they were brought up being hated for their sexuality. And then if they were loose with that sexuality because they had common sense, for heaven's sake, then people will label them as something like, you know, well, she's a slut, she's a whore. Excuse me? Yeah, she's a lady who happens to know what she likes, what she wants, how her physical plant works, man. If the body works, when I was counseling, I'd get in more trouble. I'd sit down with to-be marrieds, and I would never ask. And eventually they were afraid to talk to me or any preacher because most preachers will ask them, are you committing premarital sexual sin? And finally one of them would say, well, we've been having sex. And I would say, wow, did you enjoy it? Was it fun? Because it's supposed to be. Yeah. Now then, before you get down on it now, ladies and gentlemen, remember, Joseph and Mary were espoused when she got pregnant. You think I'm going to get mad because, you know, my boss at the time was the same thing? And, you know, what do you think I'm going to get angry at you? Because your machinery works. And in those days, I would say it works right. Male, female, female, male. Yeah. And I've had the opportunity to sit down and counsel with gays and lesbians. And it's the same response. And they would be ashamed to admit it. I said, why? Isn't that who you are? And that's who you've been called to be. You think I'm upset with that? Man, I hope you're enjoying who you are because life is short and you found somebody you love. That's wonderful. Now, what seems to be the problem? That's how I feel. Yeah. And that was the end of part 2 of the interview with Raggy Ragsdale. Well, kiddies. Oh, geezers. I sign. Passway. Till next we meet, this is old Uncle Raggy saying bye. Well, that's it for another week. If you enjoyed the show, please let me know in the comments down below. How awesome is that? That's pretty awesome. Please click like before you leave a comment so that I know that you are genuinely clicking like on the thumbnail on the video and on the various apps that you're listening to this podcast with. That way I know it's genuinely you leaving the comment and I know who likes the show and who doesn't. Now, the moment you've all been waiting for and sitting through a rather long period of time for, it's this week's code word. And this week's code word is the word mineral, M-I-N-E-R-A-L. See if you can make a pun or two with that. As always, I hope that today and the rest of today and the rest of the week is easy like a Sunday morning. I'll catch you again next week. Bye for now.